Okay, I'll just adjust the camera a bit before we start. Right, my friends, I'm back again in my new abode. For those who didn't see the other video I did here, this is it. Due to the miserable weather outside, I can't do it from a normal spot because it's too dark. So in here there's a bit more light, and it's it's quiet enough. If you hear anything, it will just be the fridge or the boiler. So that's why I'm sitting here. Right, today we have another section in my Hugo Award Winners project. Right, as usual, for those who haven't seen any of the others, many moons ago in the 60s and 70s, 1960s and 70s, I used to read for England, mainly science fiction. In fact, totally science fiction, if I'm honest. And for one reason or another, I used to read a lot of short stories. So I got back into reading science fiction about 18 months ago or so, and I decided to catch up with novels that I'd failed to read back then. And I thought, the best way of doing that is to pick some, try and get some good novels in. So I decided to try and read all the Hugo award-winning novels, which generally thought to be the best novel of the year, but it doesn't always work that way in my experience. So that's where the idea came from. Now it's not a review. I've got a couple of books to do today. It's not a review as such. I don't go into depth about these books. I just give you a brief plot summary, and then my opinions, and then give it a score. So that's where we are. Right, let's get straight into it. First book today was the winner of the Hugo in 1973. This is the first American paperback edition by Fawcett Books. Now this is a fix-up. They call it a fix-up novel. Basically, if you're not aware, that means that it was drawn from separate stories or novellas which appeared in the magazines of the time. Now this particular one appeared in 3 issues of 2 of If and 1 of Galaxy, and what then happens is it gets the 3 novellas were then edited, obviously, into a short story to give it a bit of continuity. And this one is, it's not a complicated plot, even though it might seem that way to anybody who reads it. But basically, the scientist finds that in a laboratory one day, some matter has transferred. The matter has become something else. And this leads to the discovery of a parallel universe which is sending this matter through. For what reason, I can't remember. It's a couple of weeks since I read this now. And this leads to the invention of something called the electron pump, which gives free and sustainable energy to the world. So very popular, as you can imagine. But another scientist believes that due to the physics involved, that our sun might be in danger, and we might be in danger of blowing up the planet. But nobody can get him to he has no actual scientific evidence, but he strongly believes this. But of course nobody will have it because nobody wants to use the advantages of the free energy. So that's basically the first part. I should mention that the title of the chapters, the 3 chapters, is drawn from a poem, I believe, which goes, if I can remember, against stupidity, the gods themselves contend in vain. Now the first chapter is called Against Stupidity, the second, the gods themselves, and the third chapter, Contend in Vain, ? So anyway, in the first chapter you've got a load of posturing between scientists with huge egos. And then in the second chapter, it completely moves away from that onto the parallel planet and the parallel universe, where obviously the original switch of elements or whatever it was took place. And you learn about this society who mate in threes. So there's the scientist, the person, the one, I can't remember what they actually call it, but basically the one with all the feelings, and then you have the parent, and they breed in threes, and then each one breeds in another threes, and that's how they survive. It's a completely alien race, by the way. They live off energy from the sun, and you have the soft ones, sort of like a gelatinous or form that can change shape, and then you have the hard ones who are the sort of the elders, if you like, and it goes into great detail about their society, and also the fact that this was involved. This planet was involved with the electron pump. Can't tell you too much because spoilers will jump in, and as you know, I don't like to give spoilers. Then the third chapter is set on the moon, and it involves a scientist who railed against Hallam, who invented the pump, or so he claims. And there's a lot of descriptive stuff about moon acrobatics and the girl he met, travel agent. And there again, I can't tell you too much because I don't want to give away the end of the story. But I mean, that's basically in a nutshell. And there's a lot more happens in the book, but I can't tell you too much. But that's basically what happens. Now, my impressions of the book, I didn't like it at all. The first chapter, with all the posturing, as I say, between these egotists, just grinded, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking for a word that's not in the dictionary, but it got me wick anyway, let's put it another way. And the second part, on the alien planet, I just found tedious, to be quite honest. I just couldn't get into it at all. And then the third part, I don't know, it just seemed rather irrelevant to me. I mean, you could tell it was made up of 3 different novellas, because it seemed that way. It didn't flow. And I just couldn't get into the book at all. I mean, about 18 months ago, I bought a six book set from Asimov of the Foundation stories, the earlier ones anyway. And I read Foundation and I quite liked it. So when I came to this, a Hugo winner, I thought, oh well, maybe I'd misjudged Asimov because I never read him back in the day. He was one of those authors that I thought didn't appeal to me at all. So when I came to it, I thought, oh, this got to be good. And no, it wasn't. Well, in my opinion, it wasn't. I know a lot of people do like it. It just wasn't for me. And that's all I'm going to say about it. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 5 being average as usual, I can only give this a 2 because it committed the worst sin for me. It didn't entertain me. That's all I ask from anything: a film, a book, a play, whatever you can think of. All I ask is to be entertained for a couple of hours in the case of a film, or a few days in the case of a book, and this just didn't do it for me. So, sorry Ike, whatever they called him, just a 2 from me. Now, fast forward 40 years to, sorry, I'm covering up there, Red Shirts by John Scalzi. Now, I've been a bit disparaging about contemporary books that I've read, but this one was pretty good. I'll get to that later. it won the Hugo in 2013, so exactly 40 years on. And it concerns a group of astronauts in the future who notice that the senior members of the crew seem to be immune to any sort of danger, while the minor league members seem to get killed left, right, and centre. And this certain guy comes on board. I've even forgotten his name now. Andrew Dull. Yeah, he comes on board and he notices all this going on. And that's weird. Anyway, it turns out that their lives are being influenced by. This takes place at the end of the 21st century. Their lives are being influenced by a program very much like Star Trek, I have to say. Back in the 1980s, I think it was, and what happens on the program actually happens to the people in 2070 or whenever it is, and it turns out that the writer obviously has to keep all the main characters as you would in Star Trek with Kirk, Spock, but all of the red shirts you'll notice on Star Trek are the minions who get vaporized and killed off. It's a weird concept, and it involves sort of like different timelines, but eventually Andrew and his mates take a senior member with them because they think if they're with a senior member they'll be safe. They go back using a black hole, I think, or something like that. They go back to this time and try and convince the writer to stop killing people off, so that it stops people of the future dying as well. As I say, it's a fairly basic concept, but it does your head in basically. Anything with time travel does my head in. More than that, I can't really tell you because there is a denouement or an ending that's quite interesting. So yeah, that's the basic plot of it. Now, my impressions of the book, I really liked it. I really liked it. It was funny. The dialogue was funny. I don't think. Science fiction's not known for its humour, unless you're reading Robert Sheckley or James Tiptree Jr. Some people like this. But the dialogue in this had me laughing out loud, and that never happens when I'm reading a book. Believe me, a science fiction book at least. And I just got caught up with the rather ridiculous situation, to be honest, if I'm honest about it. It doesn't sort of like gel in my brain what's actually going on. Is this for real? Is this possible? It looks like a long book, but it isn't. It's actually shorter than the other one, even though if you compare the size of them, you would think that one would have more in it, but it hasn't. It only actually runs to 300, just over 300 pages of large print, whereas that's 288, because themselves 288 of small print. But the characters were great in this. I'm a big Star Trek fan, and I don't think this is disparaging Star Trek. I think this is a love letter to Star Trek. That's the way I like to look at it anyway. There's not much I can say about it without giving the game away, but just to say that it was hugely entertaining. It was funny. It as usual with timeline stories, it just had me thinking. I can't get my head around this. And on a scale of 1 to 10, with 5 being average as usual, I would give it 9. I would like to give it 10, but it was just the idea of having to wrap my brain around it and keep thinking, am I getting this right? it was a bit confusing and annoying in places, but I mean, not annoying really, but you know what I mean, just a bit frustrating that you couldn't quite grasp what was happening. So yeah, I mean, it would have been a 10. I'll give it a 9 for that. But yeah, I mean, it's a lovely book. I mean, I just picked it up by accident in a charity shop. I thought, oh, red shirts. I'm sure that was a Hugo winner. And there we are. Rest is history. Right, so that is my latest Hugo winners' impressions. I'll be along shortly with another science fiction paperback and hardbacks pick-up video, but for now I will thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, please share if you can, and I will see you very shortly. Bye bye now.